We've talked a lot on this channel about doing well academically, how to study effectively, how to ace your tests, how to get through homework when you've barely got the time. But here's the thing. Truly successful students don't just crush it in the classroom. They've got it together across the whole of their lives. So that raises a question worth answering. What actually separates the students who seem to have everything handled in every area from everyone else? That's what this video is about. 8 habits of successful students. And yes, this is a deliberate riff on Stephen Covey's classic, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, which I've read and loved. But these 8 are their own thing, drawn from people I've watched succeed and habits I've worked to build in my own life. Every one of them will help you this coming semester. Let's dive in. Habit 1. Successful students are forward thinkers. There's a line in The Hobbit about how it's unwise to ignore a danger you live right next to. And as a student, you've got a lot of dangers quietly looming. Not just academic ones, your career plans, your relationships, your living situation, the errands stacking up. There's an enormous amount to track. And I knew plenty of people in college who were perpetually scrambling, doing everything at the last possible second, basically letting life sneak up and pounce on them. Build a forward-thinking mindset, and that just stops happening to you. Better still, you start catching opportunities that sail right past everyone else. So if you're not a natural at this, how do you become one? I believe you can, because I wasn't always one either. The trick is to build structures that force the thinking, since you can't rely on it just popping into your head. The simplest version: set a recurring reminder, weekly, to sit down and ask, what's coming up that I need to get ahead of? Do I need to register for classes? Then I'll set an alarm for the exact minute registration opens, so I grab the good sections before they're gone. Do I need to sort out housing? In a lot of college towns, every lease starts at the same time, so everyone's apartment hunting in one giant stampede. Get yours locked in early, or you're out of luck. And while you're at it, run the same forward-looking pass over your relationships. Whose birthday is coming up? Which friend have I not talked to in too long? People who are deliberate about maintaining their relationships are the ones who actually keep them as life gets busier. And life only gets busier. Habit 2. Successful students move toward adulthood on purpose. They don't let adulthood ambush them. I'm not talking about becoming a joyless person who yells at kids to get off the lawn. I mean that every single one of us has adult skills we'll eventually need and challenges we'll eventually face. And most people procrastinate on them as long as humanly possible. But if you become the kind of person willing to take those on early, opening and managing your own bank account, doing your own taxes, filling out your own financial aid forms, learning to cook a few real meals, doing your own laundry, then by the time life demands those skills, you already have them. You're not learning to swim while drowning. You're walking in prepared. Habit 3. Successful students are solution finders. These are the people who, when they hit a hard problem with no obvious answer, are willing to push through and figure it out instead of immediately throwing up their hands. A lot of students aren't like this, and there's a great rule from the software world that fixes it, called the 15-minute rule. Some companies make it policy. When you get stuck, you have to spend 15 more minutes wrestling with the problem before you're allowed to ask for help. And during those 15 minutes, you document everything you try and what didn't work. Then, once you hit the mark, you must ask. It's a beautiful balance. It forces independence and real effort, but it stops you from being so stubborn you waste hours spinning your wheels. Adopt that as a student, and 2 great things happen. You'll solve a ton of problems you would have otherwise outsourced, which builds real skill. And on the ones you do bring to a teacher, you show up with evidence that you took it seriously, which lands completely differently than walking in and going, I don't get it, the second things get hard. Habit 4. Successful students build relationships with their teachers. When you actively connect with your professors and other faculty, you build a network of people who aren't your same age or stage, and that pays off in 2 big ways. First, these are the people positioned to tell you about opportunities you'd never have found on your own. Second, when you eventually need a letter of recommendation for a job or a scholarship, these are the people who can write it because they actually know you and trust you. Your roommate is not going to cut it as a reference. So how do you start? A great first move at the beginning of a semester. Go up to the professor after the first class, briefly introduce yourself, and say you're glad to be there. That tiny gesture makes a genuinely strong first impression. Beyond that, if you stumble across an article or a video that connects to something a professor teaches, send it to them. Saw this, thought of your class. It's low effort and it quietly builds a real relationship over time. I did this once with a marketing professor of mine. Sent over an article about a clever campaign I'd read about, and he ended up bringing it up in the next lecture. Small gesture, real connection. Habit 5. Successful students learn outside of class. They pull from a variety of sources and deliberately branch beyond the narrow path of their major. This matters more than it sounds, because once you start dabbling in different subjects, you build this diverse web of connections in your brain, and that's the raw material of creativity in your main work. On top of that, wandering a little off your major path is exactly how people stumble into things that turn into a real career advantage. The side project, the random skill, the just for fun blog or channel. That's frequently the thing that ends up opening a door no one expected. I've watched friends get hired specifically because of a side passion they built up outside their degree, picking up real-world experience that most fresh graduates simply didn't have. The students who only ever look straight ahead at their required courses miss all of it. Habit 6. Successful students keep an ear to the ground for opportunities. Here's the truth about school, and college especially. You are surrounded by opportunities, but you have to be willing to look for them and know where to look. Practical moves. Actually read the bulletin boards around campus, because a shocking number of opportunities still get posted as plain old flyers. And follow your school's social accounts, not just the main one, but your specific departments, your individual professors, the career center. Those are the accounts that quietly post the openings, the seminars, the programs they think their own students would be perfect for. A single post you happen to catch can be the thread that leads to an internship, a mentor, a job. In fact, that's exactly how I landed my first internship. I caught one post from a campus account about an event, signed up, and met someone there who turned out to be instrumental in getting me hired. But it only happened because I was tuned in. Habit 7. Successful students protect their physical and mental health. When you're an ambitious student, there's this seductive belief that you should be pouring every waking hour into studying and hustling. And when people actually live that way, the first things to get sacrificed are sleep, food, and exercise. And it gets worse because they often grind themselves straight into burnout, anxiety, or depression. Here's the cruel irony. By letting their health collapse, they destroy their ability to perform at the very things they sacrificed it all for. Truly successful students understand this, which is exactly why they make time to exercise, to eat decently, and to actually sleep every night. It's not indulgence. It's what makes everything else possible. And one important note here, successful students are willing to ask for help when they need it. If you're dealing with burnout, anxiety, or depression that you can't manage on your own, talking to a professional isn't weakness. It's the same solution-finding mindset from Habit 3 applied to the most important system you've got, which is you. If any of that resonates with where you're at right now, please reach out to someone you trust or a professional. It genuinely matters more than any grade. Habit 8. Successful students try things before they feel ready. I want to underline this with an idea from Neil Pasricha's book, The Happiness Equation. He points out that people usually approach new skills in a straight line. I have to be able to do it, then I'll want to do it, then I'll do it. But think about that. If you wait until you can before you start, you never start. because doing was how you'd have gained the skill in the first place. So Pasricha says, take that line and bend it into a circle. You do, which builds the skill so you can do, which makes you want to do, which leads you to do more. And the loop reinforces itself. And on top of that, you're almost always more qualified than you think. So many people get crushed by imposter syndrome. Who am I to do this? I don't have the credential, the title, the permission. But in tons of cases, you simply don't need it. When something looks exciting and a little scary, the move isn't to wait until you feel ready, because that day rarely comes. The move is to apply anyway, put your best foot forward, and ask yourself, what's the worst that happens? I get a no and try again. I did this as a freshman with a competitive campus club that almost never admitted first years. Instead of waiting a year, I just applied, figuring the worst case was a rejection I could shrug off. And not only did I get in, I ended up on its leadership board that same year. That's how the people you admire actually got where they are. They started before they felt ready. So those are the 8. Be a forward thinker, move toward adulthood on purpose, become a solution finder, build relationships with your teachers, learn outside of class, stay tuned for opportunities, protect your health, and try things before you feel ready. Notice that almost none of these are about raw intelligence. Being a successful student, the all-around kind, is mostly a set of habits, and habits are something anyone can build. If you've got habits you think I left off the list, I genuinely love to hear them in the comments. If this was helpful, a like really supports the channel, and you can subscribe for a new video every week. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.